Let's have a look at the next step in our system right now. We now want to start working with the unit of work, so that knows about the order repository, both the interface and actually the unit of work implementation. And I also want to rename the unit of work, which is actually right now called something with memory. I don't want that anymore, so I'm just going to rename this guy as well to make this system simpler to read. So jumping into our unit of work here, that's the first place where I want to start messing around. I'm just going to create a new property right here that instead of using the customer repository is actually exposing the order repository, and instead of calling it the customer repository as the property name here, we're going to call it order repository. Now again, this is the interface and this is the property, so we are actually exposing now with the unit of work a new access point to actually start working with orders inside the business logic layer later on when we want to build our service. Great, that is out of the way. Jumping into the unit of work called unit of work memory, let's just show you where that is actually residing right now. It's under unit of work mem right here. Now I'm not satisfied with that name, so I'll go and rename it. So again, to rename the file, I'll right click here and I'll say rename. And then I'll go in and just remove the mem part and just call it unit of work. And again, it asks me, do you want to rename it all over the code? And I'll say yes, please rename it all over the code. And there we go, I'll save this. So now that we have actually changed the name of the class, let's figure out why we get an error here. Well, that's because we're not upholding the contract. Because the contract inside the unit of work, we just added something new, right? We said to call yourself a unit of work, you actually also have to have an order repository available. As of now, we don't have that. We just have a customer repository available. And let's just try and do this and add this in here. And I'm just going to do it by copy pasting again. And I need now an order repository. Let's just call it order repository right here. And there we go. Now we have the order repository available as well, and the unit of work is satisfied that you also have this available. But notice it's not set right now. It doesn't have a value yet. So the last thing we need to do is actually set it just like we're doing here with the customer repository. So what we're going to do is we're going to say order repository equals new and then order repository. There we go. So I know the naming is the same, but notice this is actually a property, and it's this property right here, where this is actually the class because I have the new keyword in front of it. And to create one of these, I need to send in the context, which is the customer app context. If you guys forgot this, let's try and jump into the order repository, and notice in the constructor I'm saying you need to send in a context to actually create an order repository. This is because I want to unit test this later, and then it will make sense with dependency injection. Let's keep that out of the way for now. So what else do we need? If we go back into our unit of work, is that all you need? Yes, it is. We're done implementing the unit of work. Sweet! But there's one more thing I just saw, a bug that I have. So go into the data access layer facade to wrap up the entire DAL layer or DAL layer right here. I'm going into the DLL facade and I noticed, oh my god, I kept the customer repository access point right here, and that's actually a very bad thing. So I'm removing that now if you haven't already. The only access point through the DAL facade is actually unit of work. That's the only way you should be able to access your data for now. So we're done. Now all of this should actually be implemented. Looking at the drawing again, all of this is implemented for the order now, and we're ready to move to the next layer. See you next time.